Hello, my dear students. Today, let us start interchange of the degrees of comparison for ninth and 10th ICSE syllabus. This is a functional grammar related to you and for your English language paper 1. I want you to know what is degrees of comparison. Now, degrees of comparisons are used when we compare one person or one thing with another. See, there are three degrees of comparisons we have in our language English. Number one is positive degree, number two is comparative degree, and number three is superlative degree. So, what is positive degree? Positive degree are the words like dark, tall, useful. Now, what are these words actually? These words are also called as adjectives. So, degrees of comparison comes under adjective forms. So, when we talk about comparative degree, darker, taller, more useful. See, dark is the positive degree. For comparative degree for dark is darker. And when we talk about the superlative degree for darker is darkest. So when we compare, for the comparative degree for tall is taller and superlative degree is tallest. So when we compare useful into comparative degree is more useful and we compare it to superlative degree most useful. See, there are some certain rules of transforming superlative, comparative and positive sentence. So rule number 1, what does the rule number 1 say? So rule number 1 for positive degree, no other, as. Now I've given you one example over here. Now the positive sentence for the example is over here. No other city is as big as Dhaka in Bangladesh. Now I might ask you to change it into comparative, or I might ask you to change it into comparative sentence. Now there are even comparative and superlative, they also have some certain rules. Now the second thing is about changing into comparative. The comparative form of adjective plus than any other. Example, Dhaka is bigger. The comparative form of adjective is bigger plus than any other. So Dhaka is bigger than any other city in Bangladesh. Okay. So when we're transforming into superlative degree, superlative form of adjective. Now when you're writing into superlative, the adjective takes the help of an article, that is the. Dhaka is the biggest city in Bangladesh. So now you understood what is the rule number 1. So rule number 1, it says no other city is as big as Dhaka. So the rule says no other, and as you use it in positive. That's a compulsory. That is the formation of rule. So when you're comparing it to comparative form, so comparative form of adjective plus than any other. Example, Dhaka is bigger than any other city in Bangladesh. So when you're trying to change it into superlative, the superlative form of adjective, but remember it takes always the superlative form of adjective takes the help of the article the. Dhaka is the biggest city in Bangladesh. Okay, let us go to set rule number 2. Now, let me give you some example here. Now, the rule says in rule number 2, very few as in positive. Example, very few metals are as precious as gold. Or sometimes you can also use that few metals are as precious as gold. Now, why is this sentence here? What is this the meaning? See, when you are understanding rule number 2, when you're trying to understand, first I'm asking you to understand the meaning of the sentence. Very few metals are as precious as gold. Of course, gold is a very precious metal. I'm not talking about a jewelry here. I'm talking about metals. Gold is not only a precious metal, there are also even other precious metal. Example, platinum, titanium, etc. There are many other metals who are very few, which are very few, which are few, that means which are precious than gold. So you are trying to tell me that very few metals are as precious as gold. That means gold is not only the precious metal. That means there is even other metals which are precious than gold. So the comparative rule is the comparative form of adjective plus then most other. So what do you add here? Then most other. Example, gold is more precious than most other metals. That means most other metals means it is precious than most other metals, but not the most precious or not the more precious that you are trying to tell. Better, that means more precious than gold. There are even other metals too. That is what you're trying to tell. So when you're learning, when you're trying to understand rule number 2, first understand what is the meaning of the sentence. Very few metals are as precious as gold. Gold is more precious than most other metals. That means gold is not only the precious metal. Let me give an example. Shakespeare is considered to be one of the most famous playwright. That means you are trying to tell that Shakespeare is one of the most famous playwright. That means what I'm trying to tell you is that Shakespeare is famous, but not only the famous. Even there are even other playwriters, such as Christopher Marlowe, Ben Jonson, and many other people are there who are also as equal as Shakespeare. So that is what I'm trying to tell you is that doesn't mean that you have to just maintain the rule. Most important is that you should also understand the meaning of the sentence. So when I'm asking you to change into comparative, okay, comparative already asked you. I'm asking you to change into superlative. One of the plus superlative form of adjective. So you are going to use in superlative one of the plus superlative form of adjective. Now what it says that gold is one of the most precious metals. That means it is one among the precious metals, not the precious metal. I'm not saying that gold is the most precious metal. I'm not asking. I'm using that gold is one of the most precious metal. That means among the precious metal, it is one of the most precious metal. I hope that you understood. Next one. Note. Some are transformed by using not. For example, Kareem is as good as Rahim. Now when I'm asking you to change it into comparative, Rahim is not better than Kareem. Okay, what is the comparative form of good is better? But remember here, if you find these kind of sentences like Kareem is as good as Rahim, or if you get two individuals here, note the point that what I've noted here. Note that when we compare two people or things, we do not normally use the superlative adjective. Remember this. When you're comparing, when you're sorry guys, when you are comparing two people or two things, we do not use the superlative form of adjective. We do not use the superlative form of adjective at all. So remember that, guys. Okay. So there are some more examples that I'm giving you here. Now, apples are not as sweet as mangoes. So this sentence is used This sentence uses the positive adjective sweet. Now I'm asking you to change it into comparative. But remember, you should not change the meaning of the sentence. Okay. Mangoes are sweeter than apples. Okay. This sentence uses the comparative adjective sweeter. There are some more examples here. Positive. I am not so or as tall as he. Now I'm asking to change it to comparative. He is taller than I. So what if I ask you comparative form? He is taller than I. Change it into positive. Your answer should be I am not as or so tall as he. See, I'm giving you options for you. Next one. Next example. Positive degree there. He is as dull as an ass. Ass is nothing but a donkey. Now the comparative form, an ass is not duller than he is. Okay. I hope that you understood what it is. Now there are some exercise over here with answers I've given. Now in the exams, we do ask like this. Mount Everest is the highest peak in the world. Use higher than. My expectation or my expected answer would be Mount Everest is higher than any other peak in the world. You got it? Now, Shakuntala is better than any other drama in Sanskrit. Use as good as, or I might ask, use good. That's all. So your transforming sentence should be no other drama in Sanskrit is as good as Shakuntala. Now, no other town in Malaysia is as old as Malacca. Use oldest. I might say use oldest or use the oldest. Malacca is the oldest town in Malaysia. Malacca is the oldest town in Malaysia. Remember that we are not comparing. Say Malaysia and Malacca, we are not comparing. In Malaysia, there's a town called Malacca. That's what we are trying to introduce. Okay. Next one. The lion is the most ferocious animal. Use ferocious or use as ferocious as. Don't depend. You depend on the adjective word. Most important, you have to depend on the adjective. Ferocious. Okay. You have to depend richest. You have to depend on the adjective words. The adjective words are very important there. If I ask you, use ferocious, then you have to use ferocious means what form it is. It is in positive form. So no other animal is as ferocious as the lion. Remember that? Doesn't mean that I have to give you as ferocious as. No. I might give you ferocious. I might give you more ferocious. I might give you most ferocious. It depends on the examiner, how he gives. The next one, example. He is richer than all other men in the village. Use the richest. He is the richest man in the village. He is the richest man in the village. Next one. Exercise 2 also with answers. Now, very few animals are as useful as the cow. I might ask you use most useful or use the most useful. The cow is one of the most useful animals. Sometimes, guys, let me give you another example. Sometimes don't expect that very few only will ask. Sometimes we might ask you few animals are as useful as the cow, sorry. Or we might ask you few more animals also we might ask you, but we don't ask you like that. Few animals are as useful as the cow. Use the most useful. The cow is one of the most useful animals. Next one. Latif is more hardworking than most other boys. Use as hardworking as. Very few boys are as hardworking as Latif. Next example. Ashoka was one of the most powerful emperors. Use most powerful emperor than. Or I might ask you, use more powerful. Ashoka was more powerful than many other emperors. That means Ashoka is not only the greatest person, or Ashoka is not only the most powerful person. That means even there are even other powerful emperors. Example, Alexander the Great, Julius Caesar, Krishnadevaraya. Okay, there were many other emperors who were very powerful. Example, Genghis Khan, and many other people were there. Okay, guys, so that is what I'm giving you an example, that Ashoka is considered to be one of the most powerful. That means he's not only the powerful, he's one among the powerful emperors. So that is the reason when you are changing into comparative, Ashoka was more powerful than many other emperors. Okay, guys, next one, the last one. India is hotter than most other countries. Use the hottest. India is one of the hottest countries. That means India is not only the hottest country in the world, there are even other hottest countries. For example, Nigeria, Congo, South Africa, and Zimbabwe. There are other African countries are also there. Then Australia is one of the hottest country over there, and many other countries are there. Bangladesh and many other countries that we can say are also hottest. Okay, guys. That doesn't mean that India is the only hottest country. That is one among the hottest countries in the world. That is what you are trying to tell. Next one. Very few poets are as great as Keats. Use greater than. Now, who's this Keats? Keats is nothing but John Keats, who wrote most of the famous poems. He was not popular. During his time, when he was alive, he was not popular. But when he died, he became more popular. That is why we call him. His works became posthumously popular. Posthumously. So, very few peoples are as great as Keats. Use greater than. Keats is greater than many other poets. Keats is greater than many other poets. So this is about degrees of comparison. That is interchange. That is interchange of the degrees of comparison for ninth and 10th ICSE syllabus. English Language Paper 1. Thank you guys. Have a nice day. Thank you.